Oh, beautiful. So this time I think I figured it out. We are live on both Instagram and YouTube. So whatever's better for you, go ahead. Um, just want to make sure that you guys can see me now. Okay, perfect. So it looks like there's a little bit of a delay on Instagram. If you have any questions, you can write those in the chat. There may be a slight delay, but today I'm going to be going through the Myolift. Excuse me, I dropped it. The Myolift Gua Sha, which I have right here. So I'm going to be doing a full treatment. I'm going to be doing lymphatic drainage. I'm going to do erase, and then I'm going to do educate. So let's get into it. What device am I going to be using? There is a curse on this live stream today. Let me just get myself a little more situated. I'm going to be using the Myolift Tri-Wave. So let's turn her on. And I'm going to be using my conductive gloves with the gua sha blade in order to do my treatment. So in just a moment, we're going to get started. I did already prep my skin, so I cleansed. And then following my cleanse, I did some serum on the skin. So I used the anti-aging peptide serum, which you can see here. And then I applied my Renew Conductive Gel. So I have the big boy, but you may also have the 4-ounce jar. Throughout the treatment, I'm going to be using the Replenish Spritzer, and I'm going to reactivate the gel. If it dries down, you can see it's already on the skin. So I'm going to put on my nitrile gloves, and then I'm going to put on my conductive gloves. You can see I've already wet these. They're not dripping wet, but they're pretty saturated. So let me just put on my nitrile. And then I'm going to put the conductive gloves right over top. So anytime that you use the conductive gloves, you do have to have nitrile gloves underneath. The reason for that is that the current will go into your hands if you're not wearing the nitrile gloves to direct it otherwise. So if you wear the nitrile, it blocks it from going into your hands, and it makes sure that it goes into your face, which is, of course, where we want our treatment to be. So how am I going to attach it? Of course, I'm going to use my lead wire. So your lead wire comes with every one of your devices. You see it ends in those two little gold prongs. And then I can take those and I can plug it directly into the glove. So we just plug that right in, and I'll do the same for the other one. And then on the other side, it goes into the device. So while you're wearing these conductive gloves, you can just hold the gua sha blade and you can do your treatment that way. So let's jump in. We're first going to do lymphatic drainage. So I'm going to be using the the Rejuve setting on the Tri-Wave. So you can see this guy right here where it says Rejuve. I'm going to be using that. I have it on 175. My skin is a little sensitive. When you use the gua sha, sometimes it can feel a little zippy or it can feel a little more intense. That's totally normal. It's just because of the metal. So this is Kansa, which is a conductive metal, and that's why it may feel a little funny on the skin at first. So when you're doing lymphatic drainage, I'm going to place one hand to ground sort of as my catcher, and then my gua sha blade is going to be moving the lymph downwards. So let's jump in. First, I'm going to start with this curved edge of the blade, and I can just begin by unblocking the neck. So I'm going to do 5 passes of each movement, and then I'm going to move to the next one. Once I've done that, I like to go and work my way across the neck. So, a lot of people in my years as an esthetician have asked me, what is the purpose of lymphatic drainage? So, in our body, the lymph system is responsible for moving toxins and transporting them around the body. The lymph system is basically like one of these fluid transport systems in the body. It's also very involved in the immune system. So, when our lymph system gets backed up, we get really puffy. We can tend to have more inflammation and more breakouts in the skin, and we can see a lot of problems arise. Another thing that people see is like really puffy or dark under eyes. Um, so by clearing out the lymph system and doing some of this lymphatic drainage, we help to detoxify and depuff the skin. So this is going to be really good for those of you who are sensitive, who are puffy, maybe you're prone to acne and breakouts, or you're prone to congestion in the skin. Lymphatic drainage is really going to be good for you if those are your concerns. When we're doing a microcurrent treatment, lymphatic drainage is also going to make your treatment work better. So, if you think about this sort of accumulated fluid that we get in the face and in the tissues, by doing lymphatic drainage and getting that fluid out of the way, then when you come in and you do your microcurrent, the current is able to penetrate the skin and get to the muscle a little bit easier. So you're just going to get a better result from that as well. So I'm just walking my way down the face. If you can imagine, all the lymph that's in the face, I've been pushing over to the side here. So I'm just making my way down. So for those of you who just joined, after some considerable technical difficulty, now I am using the MyoLift Gua Sha, and I'm doing a combined microcurrent and Gua Sha treatment. So right now I'm using a light pressure and I'm doing lymphatic drainage. I'm wearing the conductive gloves. So there's electricity flowing through the gloves into the blade and then into the skin. So I clear, clear, clear. And now that I've gone across the face like this, I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to make my way all the way down and clear it out. So if you have the Tri-Wave already, or you have the 600 plus if you're a professional, or the MD, if you have this lymph setting, you can also just do lymphatic drainage with your probes. I just find this feels a little more fluid because you have that nice big area on the edge of the gua sha blade. So it's going to help you to not only cover a larger area and feel nicer, but it also gets you a little bit of a quicker, better result. So it's subtle, but you can see already a little bit of depuffing has happened in here. And also this eye is a little bit brighter. And then this one looks like it's a little more sort of sunken. So let me go in and I'm going to do the other side now. First, I'm going to unblock down here. So if your head is the flower, then your neck is the stem. If lymph is trapped in the face and you've got puffiness in your eyes or in your jawline or cheeks, you have to clear out the neck. Otherwise, you won't be able to clear out those areas in the face that get really blocked up. So I did my few passes and now let's start working across. Now, normally when you're using the conductive gloves alone, you will not have gel on the skin. I do have conductive gel on the skin right now because I need slip for the gua sha blade. So normally when you do a gua sha massage and you're not doing microcurrent, then you'll have some kind of oil on the skin. Here, you cannot use an oil. Oil blocks electricity, and so our microcurrent is not going to work if you put oil on right now. So now let me walk my way across the face. And I'm just clearing. When you do lymphatic drainage, you use a very light pressure. Lymph is near the surface, it's very superficial. And so you want to be really feathery. If you use a deeper pressure, you're going to push past the lymph, and really you're just going to be working on the muscles, which is not a bad thing, but we're going to do that later. And so right now it's just not really the goal of these movements. And you can see I'm going right through the eyebrow, and I'm using that little divot to hug the brow bone. That's what I love about this classic gua sha blade shape. These different sides, the curve, the divot, the big C is what I call it, or the little C. Um, these areas hug different parts of the face and they make it really ergonomic. So I'm clearing over the eye. I can use that little pointed end, and I can clear under the eye. And so I have this current on a low intensity. There's no reason to make this too strong. You can keep this nice and gentle. Lymphatic drainage is superficial, so we don't need a ton of current. We don't need to push hard. And even from just a few moments ago, I think you can see that this eye that I'm working on, this is my left eye. I'm not sure if my picture is getting reversed when I record this, but you can see that this eye is now kind of matching this one a little better. So let's work our way down, and I'm always planting at the edge of the face as I'm working. So one thing about microcurrent that I want to explain, we are passing a current through the skin. So the current has one spot where it enters the skin, and then it has one spot where it leaves the skin. If it doesn't have those 2 points, then it won't go into the skin. So we need to make sure that the current is entering through the gua sha blade, and then it has an exit point through your other hand, so that you know the current is passing into the skin. If you only have one point of contact, let's say I'm not touching and I only use the blade, the electricity doesn't have a path through the skin, and so it's not going into the skin and it's not working. So you always need your 2 points of contact, like I have here. So 1 point is the blade, and then 1 point is my other non-dominant hand. And I like to keep the blade pretty flat to the skin, especially during lymphatic drainage, since you really just want to use that full surface of the blade. When you're using the, when you're using the gua sha blade, one thing that I see a lot of people doing is they take it like this and they have it on the skin so that it's not laying flat, and instead it's sticking out, and they go like that. Now, this is a technique that is used in Chinese traditional medicine where they do like kind of a scraping to bring blood flow up to the surface. That's not what we're doing here. So in these situations, you always want to have the blade nice and flat to the skin. So let me just finish up, and I'm going to clear out this side by going through that whole periphery of the face. So if you don't have a microcurrent device, you can still do lymphatic drainage by replicating these massage movements. The microcurrent is making it work better. And the reason for that is that the electricity is actually making our cells more permeable. So it makes it easier, because of the microcurrent, for our cells to dispose of waste. When we talk about detox or detoxifying the skin, that's a big buzzword. This is one of the only situations where that can be used and it means something. There are literally toxins that accumulate in the cells, and our microcurrent is getting them out. So now I'm going to switch to erase. Erase is our waveform that is releasing tension in the muscles. So I'm going to be now bracing the skin, and then I'm going to be sliding away from my hand for most of these movements. I'm also just going to re-wet. And you can see my skin's a little sensitive. I have some redness here, some redness in here and up on my forehead. And so when you have sensitive skin like I do, sometimes friction on the skin makes you pink up really bad or it can cause irritation. That's why I use the mist and that's why I'm generous with the gel. So just keep that in mind if you do have sensitive skin to minimize that friction as much as possible. So now let's begin. I'm going to be doing this massage on erase for tension release. So this is going to mirror a lot of classical gua sha massages, but the microcurrent's going to make it better. So I'm going to start on the neck and I'm going to work upwards now. So this is going to give a nice definition and lift. This is also going to help release some of that tightness in the muscles. So I have TMJ. I get a lot of tension headaches working over here, not only on the side of the neck, but also the sternocleidomastoid or the SCM muscle. It's like a thick cord that runs from the ear to the collarbone. It helps you turn your head. You can do some work on that here with your gua sha blade, and it will help relieve some of that tightness and some of that discomfort. Do you ever like wake up and it just hurts to turn your head, or you get a headache where that entire sort of around your ear feels really tight? Maybe it's a tension headache. You can use your gua sha blade and you can treat some of those areas. So you can also go up closer to the front of the neck, and I'm stopping at the jawline here and giving a wiggle. You'll see I do a lot of that wiggling too. Whenever I reach my destination, I wiggle the blade. That's because there are acupressure points in the areas where I'm stopping, and so that wiggle helps to kind of hit and activate them. You'll see the one spot on the neck that I don't do is right here, because that's where the thyroid is. We don't want to stimulate or mess with the thyroid too much. If you want to do some work on your double chin, you can avoid the thyroid here and just kind of start right under the chin and scoop around. So you can do like a little bit of that without going into the center of the throat. So if you think of kind of like where your Adam's apple is, you want to avoid that spot. So we've gone up the neck here. You can also go across the neck if you're really tight there. Most people don't need that, so I want to skip it for right now. Now we're going to work directly on the jawline. So if you want to define your jawline, this is one of the best movements in my opinion. I'm going to brace. I'm going to use that divot edge. I'm going to hug the jawbone and I'm going to slide. So now that we're working on the muscles, you can see my pressure is a little bit more. So this is like a medium pressure. I'm not, really working it into the tissue, but I am using enough pressure that you can see there's a little bit of pinkness coming up. So you can take your time here, make sure you're bracing the skin. And then I like to wiggle in the back. Your masseter is here, or your chewing muscle. So going back to our TMJ or tension headache people, that's another muscle that you really can benefit from working on because it helps to keep some of that tension at bay. So I like to do about 3 passes and 3 wiggles. You can now just kind of work your way up the face. So I'm going to go up the cheek now. First, I'm going to start on top of the jaw, since I was sort of in the jaw and now I'm on top of it, and slide across. So I'm going pretty much under the cheekbone, and you can see it gives me an opportunity to kind of carve that out. So that's really nice if you want to define your cheek. And there's another movement you'll see later that's also going to help with that. Really, even more than that. There's a couple of movements. Let me just check. So now I'd walk up. I like to start here at the corner of the mouth now and bring it up across the cheek. So now I'm following the cheekbone and I'm using that divot to really hug in there. So because this massage uses that medium pressure and we're working a little deeper in the muscles, because there's some friction involved, if you have, like, let's say, for example, your tri-wave at home, and you can do this with other microcurrent devices. So if you have the QT or the Mini, this also applies to you. If you're doing these gua sha treatments at home, um, then I would do this no more than twice a week. If you can do your gua sha once a week, I think that's great. And then let's say a few other days out of the week, then you can go in and do your probes, or you can do one of the hands-free masks or something else. Just because those involve a little bit less friction on the skin. You don't ever want to overdo it with friction. So now I've gone across. I'm gonna now go in and I'm gonna work upwards. So I'm gonna start right on that masseter again. So TMJ girls, pay attention. I like to take this edge because it lets me get in there a little more. I brace at the jawline and start there, and then I slide up until I'm wedged under the cheekbone. So I'm right in there. If this or any of the areas I'm doing are areas of concern, then you can always do a couple of extra passes. So I'm doing 3 passes here, but let's say I was having a TMJ flare up, which happens pretty often, then I will do 5 passes here, and then I move over. I do the same thing now in the middle of the cheek. Ooh, that feels good. We have a lot of acupressure points that go right under the cheekbone here. You would be surprised. There was a spa that I worked at where they had a signature massage that we all had to learn. And there was a move in that massage called the claw, where you would take all of your fingers and kind of dig them in under the cheek. And when I tell you that looked so weird, but felt so beautiful. There are a million little points under the cheeks. Okay, not a million, but there are a bunch of little points under the cheeks that feel really nice, and you would never know how much tension lives right in there. So I'm telling you, try that wiggle when you're doing your gua sha. Can even give a little jaw rotation. So now I'm gonna go up into the cheek. I like to use this edge because then I can go in and I can really scoop here. And you see how I'm catching the corner of the lip and helping release that droopy corner of the mouth as well. But then I'm hitting that apple of the cheek and I'm really scooping it upwards. And if your hand gets tired, for example, you can reposition your hand. So I had it like this, and now I'm actually going to switch and put my thumb underneath. Beautiful. So you can even kind of go in there more if you want and really scoop. So the way that you do these movements, it's going to change a little bit based on the anatomy of your face. You can even do an extended movement if you want to be fancy, and you can bring it all the way up. And let me get a little more spritzer. You can see now the friction is increasing and my skin is getting a little pink. So now what I would do is I'm gonna go in under the eye and I'm gonna use a lighter pressure again. So we're gonna come in with this little pointed tip and we're gonna do a little bit more of a moon shape. And I like to finish by going upwards here. You can extend it into the temple and that can be your end point. So this is gonna help with crow's feet. This is also helping, you can see, lift that brow. Now, one of the advantages of using the conductive gloves, and you can see that kind of showcased here, is that when we work in a tiny area like under the eye, instead of using my whole hand, I could just take one finger and I can place it in here and I can work around just my one little finger instead of having to place an entire hand or an entire probe in that spot. So even just from that, you can see this eyebrow is released and it's a little bit lifted up. But now we're going to get into the fun stuff. I'm going to go in with my divot edge and I'm going to work specifically on the brow. So I like to plant near the head of the brow. I start here hugging the brow bone and we slide all the way across, and then we end in that temple again. And do you see how that stretches and just lifts up that entire eyebrow? So if you can keep up with these kinds of movements and you're doing your regular microcurrent a couple more times a week, you can get that lifted eyebrow effect. I know in social media, a lot of us are calling it that cat eye effect or that straight brow. You can see literally it kind of removes the arch and it encourages that brow to lift up. I naturally have a bit of a straight brow already, you can see, but now that I've done those movements, it just really picks it up. And then the other thing that you can do for your brow is you can go in with this flat edge and you can just literally press and grab the brow and then bring it up. Beautiful. So you can use this flat edge like I did. You can also use that inward curve, and that will hug the forehead if you want to cover a larger area. Beautiful. I know it looks a little crazy like this, but once that eye comes back down, you see the effect. So definitely a lift in here. You can see that eye is brighter and more open. Um, let's see. So my mouth naturally is a little asymmetrical. This side always tends to be lower. So when I do a treatment, my goal is to kind of even them out. So I would go in and I would do a little extra here, and then that would get me nice and even. But the other thing I want to point out is in here, you can see a little bit more of definition. Of course, when you've got a fuller face like I do, these effects are subtle, but they're very real. You can see in the eyebrow, for example. So let me go in and let me do my other side. If you have any questions, then I'll take those now. You can just write those in the comments. So far, I do not think that I have gotten any, but let me double check just for a moment. Oh, love that. Okay, so my questions on Instagram are not showing up in the chat here. Let me just go to those real quick. So somebody said, are you just plugged into the gloves but not on a cord with the gua sha? And yes, that is correct. So the gloves are plugged into the device. The gua sha blade is not. Simply by holding the blade, you send the electricity through it. It's like magic. Somebody said, love this method. I'm so happy to learn about this combo to offer with clients. If you are a professional, this is awesome for clients because it feels great. Also, you get a nice result. So they'll sleep through it. They'll wake up feeling better than they've ever felt in their life. And you know that you've done your due diligence as a professional and you've gotten them some really nice and efficacious results from your treatment. So let me just even myself out. I'm going to do my upward sweeps on the neck. Now I'm a righty, so I'm going to try not to cover what I'm doing too much. So I've been doing gua sha for years. Personally, I'm a licensed esthetician, although now with 70 Wellness, what I primarily do is I work with the consumer products. So I've had a lot of familiarity with both. This is both. So like I was saying, this can be used in a spa setting. This can also be used at home. And it functions beautifully in both settings. Why would you do this with microcurrent instead of just doing a regular gua sha treatment and not having the conductive gloves or the MyoLift TriWave in the background? Um, and the reason for that is that the massage is supposed to do certain things. The massage is supposed to release tension. It's supposed to help to move some lymph around in the face. It's supposed to help to sculpt and contour. It can give you a lift. The microcurrent is doing all of that and then some. So microcurrent is also increasing your cellular energy. So on that really biological cellular level, microcurrent is improving the health of the skin and it's improving the health of the muscles. And that's something that just our superficial massage it's not able to do. So microcurrent adding that bit of technology really is taking it a step further in terms of what you get out of it. So if you're going to sit down and you're going to spend 20 or 30 minutes like I did just now and do a full gua sha massage, you might as well do it with the microcurrent and get more out of your time. So that's my thinking. And the same goes with spending the time to do, let's say, a 15 or 20-minute gua sha add-on in a spa. You might as well add the microcurrent because for that same amount of time, you're going to get a better result. And also, you can sometimes charge a higher price point because you're bringing in a professional device and you're not just using a regular old gua sha blade. So that brings me to my next point. What sets this apart from your regular old gua sha blade? So the Myolift Kansa here, it's made of Kansa, which is a special type of bronze that comes from India. This type of bronze is famously used in Indian traditional medicine for a lot of different functions. People use this material to make massage tools, obviously, but also other stuff like their cups, plates, really intimate things that they come in contact with all the time. And that's because they believe that Kansa helps to purify. So there is a metaphysical benefit to using Kansa as your massage tool. Some people really care about that kind of stuff. Other people want to see studies. So if you're somebody who cares about the metaphysical, who cares about the energies of it all, Kansa is a relevant material for you to use. But also, as someone who cares about the science, Kansa is a conductive metal, so it's going to work better with microcurrent. Let's say you have any other material really. So let's say like quartz, plastic, ceramic, glass, other types of stone. Those gua sha tools are not going to conduct microcurrent. So you wouldn't be able to use them in this situation. So I would keep that in mind. There are some others I've seen that are made of metal, and you may or may not be able to use those. But of course, we haven't checked. So I would be careful. The last thing you want to do is use a material that you're not supposed to use or use a cheap metal that could maybe cause a reaction or an allergy for someone. So I would keep that in mind. You always want to be careful of that. Let me just double check Instagram. Okay, beautiful. Hello, everyone. So just a couple more strokes in here. And then I'm going to move up to the eye. The other thing that I really like about the Kansa, and some of you may have seen me drop this earlier today, this does not shatter when you drop it. I used to use rose quartz gua sha blades many years ago, and I really liked the kind that I would get. I liked the shape, thought it was really pretty, cute. I also tried jade. Do you know how many of those I dropped and shattered? I broke probably 5 of those over the course of about 3 years. So for the amount that you would spend, off the top of my head, I think it is $69 for one of these Kansa gua sha. You know, for the 20 or 30 bucks that you spend on the rose quartz one, let's say, once you break 5 of them, it's not a better deal anymore. You end up spending a lot more. Certain stone materials are also porous, and so they can harbor bacteria, whereas metal is easier to clean. So now let me go back to one of my favorite moves. I'm going to take my divot end and I'm going to work into the brow again. So not only does this look impressive and get a nice result, this brow work feels so good. One thing that I have encountered with clients over the years is that we don't even realize how tight we are. So a lot of people carry tension and emotion here in the brows. Basically, as we move our face throughout the day and we emote and we go through our lives, you tend to get really tight in these areas, and that tightness can sometimes have emotions tied up in it. So when you release that tension, you can also improve your state of mind. You can really feel an impact from that release, and you can kind of feel that relief in more ways than just the obvious, I'll say. So the brows tend to be one of those areas where we store a lot of that tightness in the face. These muscles tend to be really overworked, particularly in between the brows and underneath them in the crow's feet area. So by stretching, we can help to undo some of that. That tension can contribute to wrinkles as well. So it's always worth being aware of. So now that I've done both sides of the face, I'm going to do a little work in the middle here on the forehead. So if you have horizontal lines on the forehead, you can do that upward sweep right across the center here. And it's a nice way to iron out those lines. And then the other thing you can do, and this is a big one for me, I am starting to get my 11 lines coming in really prominently. And they don't look terrible on camera, but if I turn and go like this, you can see even when I'm not expressing, that crease is still there in the muscle. So I can see that a wrinkle is going to form there and it's going to be deep because it's already deep, even though it hasn't fully kind of closed here. So I will go in with this pointed tip and I will just iron sideways and go straight across that area. So I'm bracing the head of the brow that I'm pulling away from. And for the entire length of that crease that wants to form, I just iron right across. So I don't wear my glasses as much as I should. I squint all the time and I get a line in here, obviously, which you can see. Um, my solutions are to squint less, but also to really work on these muscles and try to undo. So when I'm furrowing or squinting my brow, I'm tightening in here and creating a tense fold. And then you can see when I go in and I work on releasing that tension and I iron it out, it's not going to fully go away right now because I am a human person and I age. Uh, but you can see, even in the short term, it does help to improve the appearance of that spot. So the other thing you can do if you get a bunny line that goes horizontal here is you can use your divot end and you can hug that very top of the nose bridge and you can open that area up. This is one of the only spots where I'm not doing a wiggle, just because if you are wiggling right in here, you're going to end up with a big red spot on your forehead. You see, I'm just stroking upwards here. Beautiful. So you can see I have a little bit of pinkness in certain areas, like down here, right where I was just working. That's totally normal. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of friction that we're applying to the skin when we do this kind of medium or deep pressure massage. A little bit of this pinkness is good. This is circulation in the skin. Microcirculation like this is your best friend. So now what I would do is I've done lymphatic drainage, I've done tension release, and now if I'm going to do educate and I'm going to do some quick little lifting movements, I actually like to put down the blade and just use my gloved fingertips, and I'll isolate a couple of areas that I want to lift up. So let's say I go to educate and then I want to just work specifically right here and lift that corner of the mouth. then I can do that and just do my little touch-ups at the end of my treatment. Usually for me, this is only a couple of minutes. After I've done this whole gua sha massage and treated my whole face, I don't usually feel the need to do very much. If you want to, you can do a full, let's say 10 or 15 minutes with now your fingertips, and you can lift everything once more. I don't think that that's super necessary. The other thing I like to do is go in and just kind of give that cheek one last little scoop. And you can see I like to use my fingertips like this so I can sort of catch the cheek in between. But you could also use all your fingers if that's more comfortable for you, or you could place one and then you could scoop like this. The gloves give you a lot of freedom to kind of do whatever's comfortable for you when you're doing these treatments. So change it up. Use your hands however you need to. After years in the industry, my hands are rickety crickety. So some positions don't feel super comfortable, which is why you'll see sometimes I will choose what might look like a strange hand shape or position because I'm adapting to what feels good for me. So you could also go in, you could do little lifting on the brows. I'm not going to belabor this right now, actually, because I'm super happy with how my brows look after doing that gua sha. Somebody said, what about using the T-bar after instead of the gloves? And that's a great idea. You can absolutely do that. You can use the T-bar also to do a lot of these movements that I did earlier in lieu of using the gua sha. Of course, I wouldn't use a deep pressure with the T-bar because it's a little more fragile, but it's really nice. For those of you who don't know, the T-bar is one of the new attachments that we just released that attaches to the cotton tip probe. So it helps you to treat more precisely, and you can get into certain areas of the face more easily because of that bar. So let me see, double check on Instagram if there are any other questions. We got a really nice turnout today, so thank you so much, everybody who's watching. A couple people said hi. Hello, everyone. Hi, Tiffany. Yeah, a couple of people saying they love this method. So I love knowing that there's a lot of approval from people who use it. Now, after you've done your full treatment, you do have gel on the skin. So I would remove that gel. You can tone it off or do a quick rinse or cold towel. I like to remove the gel just because it pills up on the skin if you leave a thick layer of it. But there's no danger to leaving it on. I will then go in and I'll apply the hydrating spritzer again. This is like a hydrating essence. So you can really use, sorry, where's the name? You can really use the Replenish spritzer any time of the day or night. I have it just as part of my skincare routine. So I wash my face, I apply a little bit of this, and then I go into my serums and my creams and everything else. So what I'm going to be putting on today, and this is the other fun part that I get to go through right now. I'm actually going to leave on the gel because I am going to be home all day today and my skin just drinks it up. So I'm going to apply a couple of things right on top. And for me, I'm just going to call it a day. So first, I'm going to go in with my 70 Eye Lift Serum. This is new. Highly recommend that you try it. There's a bunch of really fun ingredients in here. So this has some really nice botanicals. It has evening primrose, which is conditioning and soothing for the skin. Let me just dispense a little bit and clock the nails. Isn't that cool? It did a little magnetic. But you can see it's a nice thick gel that then I'll pick up and I'll apply that on my under eyes. So not only does it have evening primrose, this has peptides that help to release and limit some of the movement around the outer corners of the eyes. So this is a topical product that is going to help with that muscle movement and wrinkles. This also has ingredients that help with big under eye bags and with puffiness. So it has green coffee extract, which has caffeine. The caffeine is going to help to circulate blood under the eyes and clear out some of that darkness. Um, this has become a big favorite of mine. And it's got an interesting smell. It smells really natural, I think because of that green coffee seed. To me, it almost smells like rooibos tea or red tea, if you ever tried it. I think it's really interesting. I love a product that smells like what's in it and doesn't have a million masking fragrances and heavy additives. So I can really appreciate that. It leaves the under eye area feeling really kind of firm. It's a little sticky, which tells you that it's really hydrating and that it's really good at attracting moisture to the skin. I also love this stickiness because if I'm going to put on concealer afterwards, I get a really nice finish and it grips to that pigment. So I'm super happy with this. I love this eye cream. I was part of testing it. I have been through multiple bottles of this guy right here, and you can see I'm already halfway through this one. I drink it. So I put that on once a day, and then I'm also, for the daytime now, gonna put on my Revital C serum. So my Revital C serum, it's a pure ascorbic acid serum, meaning it's that true pure form of vitamin C. But the vitamin C is encapsulated. That's why it's clear like this. When you encapsulate vitamin C, basically you're putting it inside of a little bubble. And that bubble allows the vitamin C to bypass the surface layers of the skin and go into the deeper layers. And when that happens, you get less irritation and it works better. So, this is a really advanced way to use that pure vitamin C. If you tried other ascorbic acid products and you had problems with them, the encapsulation of this one actually may help you to get a better result and to not have irritation. So, huge fan of this guy. I also have been through many bottles of it. So now that I have my serum and my eye serum on the skin, I like to finish up with just a couple of little massage movements with the fingertips. And of course, lets me show off my nails. But one of the movements that I like to do is a little bit of lifting. So it's almost like a flicking motion that you do very lightly just to create a little bit of a bounce on the skin. If you feel like your skin is moving a lot, you can brace with the other hand. I like to do that right in the cheek. And I just do that until my serum soaks in and I don't feel it on the surface anymore. You can hit the corner of the lip. Beautiful. So now I'll do the other side. And this kind of movement, it just helps, again, to bring in a little bit of circulation, helps to kind of activate the skin, activate the muscles by giving it that little bit of a pick-me-up. And it brings some of that fullness up. So we want fullness in the apple of the cheek. We don't really want it down here. So we can kind of encourage. You can go in with two hands. If you want to get real fancy, you can use all the fingertips. So a lot of estheticians will use movements similar to this to create that kind of vibrating or lifted effect in the tissue. This is legit. It feels crazy, but it really does work. And then maybe some tapping on the forehead. Can circle the eyes. And then we're all set. So I'm going to come back next week and I'm going to be doing another live. We're going to try to do these on a weekly basis, although I'm going to be changing the timing and the day of the week. So we're going to see what timing is best for everybody. And then once we have a good idea of that, we will go from there. Somebody said I usually leave the gel on to take advantage of all the good ingredients. Totally cool. You'll see that's what I did today because I know my skin is super thirsty and I'm not going outside for a little while, so I will be good. Somebody else said, can you do lymphatic with the mini or with the 600? So with the mini or the 600, they do not have the lymph setting or Rejuve rather, they don't have it. The 600 plus does have it, but the original 600 does not. What you can do in lieu of using that, if you already have the mini or the 600, is you can do your lymphatic drainage without the microcurrent. Just do a manual lymphatic, either with the blade or even just with your fingertips. And then you can switch on the device and you can do your tension release like I did, and then you can go in and do your lifting. So that would be the alternative for you. Although I really do appreciate that lymph setting. Having the microcurrent powering the lymphatic drainage does make it work better. And they feel the difference. So they feel that like drainage in the back of their throat. And then sometimes they even get up in the middle and they have to go pee. And as you can tell that the lymphatic drainage is really hitting them. So I just took a look and I'm not seeing any more questions. I'm going to give like one more second to see. If you have a burning question that comes up later, you can always send us an email. So you can email info, I-N-F-O, at 7ewellness.com. My name is Sam if you want to ask me directly. Otherwise, we are good for it. You can ask us whatever questions you like. We also have a toll-free line that you can call. The numbers on our website. I'm not going to spit a million numbers at you now, but please check us out 70 at 7ewellness.com. So let me do my final check to see if there are any questions. Somebody had an acne question. If you're asking whether this can be used for acne, lymphatic drainage is really helpful if you're acne prone, because lymphatic drainage can help to treat some of that inflammation. It can also help to get some of those cellular toxins out of the face. Acne is a chronic inflammation of the pores. And so that lymphatic drainage lowering the inflammation is certainly not going to hurt. Would I use the gua sha blade if somebody has a lot of active blemishes on the face? I'm going to say probably not. If somebody has a lot of active blemishes on the face, I'm going to go in and use my probes. Let me just grab that. I'm going to go in for somebody with acne, and I'm going to probably use either my probes or I'm going to use the gloves. And that's because they allow me to be more precise, and also they use a lighter pressure. So I don't want to use a medium or a deep pressure on somebody who has acne. That's going to be problematic. It can open the blemishes or be really uncomfortable for them. If somebody has a high grade acne, let's say a literal grades 2 through 4 of acne, where you have sort of chronic breakouts, the breakouts are covering a larger area of the skin and you can't just work around it. I would focus on clearing the skin first, maybe just do a little lymphatic drainage, but I would not do the massage until the skin is a little clearer. But as a general rule, microcurrent is great for lowering inflammation. Like I said, microcurrent also kills bacteria on the skin, and microcurrent speeds up the rate at which the skin heals. So, of course, when you have acne and you have chronic breakouts, there are a lot of injuries that are happening to the skin. And so you want to help those heal and you want to help those to close up a little bit faster. You can also reduce some of that post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation by reducing the inflammatory response. So there is a time and place for microcurrent for somebody that has acne. If somebody has a severe case of acne, then I would be sparing with it and focus on clearing them and lowering inflammation first before I do any like deep sculpting. But there is certainly an application and there are certainly benefits for them to get out of it. Alrighty, so that looks like the end. Thank you for tuning in. We spent a good long while hanging out here, and I will see you next week.